When it comes to romance in One Piece, Oda has made it pretty clear it's not exactly his top priority. He's more focused on the adventure, the world building, and those jaw-dropping plot twists. But even with that in mind, Oda has sprinkled in a few beautiful, though often tragic, romantic moments throughout the story. Now, fans being fans, they can't help but wonder about the love lives of the Straw Hat crew. Sure, romance isn't on the table right now. There's still too much chaos, danger, and world-changing stuff going on. But once the story reaches its final chapter, people are already asking, who's ending up with who? And when it comes to questions like that, Luffy is always at the center of the conversation. As the main character, fans are constantly curious if he'll end up falling for someone by the end of it all. And interestingly, Oda has already dropped a few hints about how he sees Luffy's romantic future playing out.
船長失格なのよあんたすみません甘やかさないでジンベエ
好食
やめとけ親分何よその音ラビチワン
When it comes to the idea of romance developing between members of the Straw Hat crew, it's pretty safe to say that Oda not only isn't a fan of the concept, but he's actually gone out of his way multiple times to shut it down entirely, making it clear that it has no place in the world of One Piece as he envisions it. Over the years, fans, understandably curious given how close-knit the crew is and how much time they spend together in life-or-death situations, have brought up the topic of potential relationships between the Straw Hats, wondering if there might be hidden feelings or future pairings waiting to be revealed. But every single time Oda has been asked about it, he's responded with the same strong and definitive stance. Romance within the Straw Hat crew just isn't happening. One particularly well-known example of this came when someone asked Oda directly about Nami and whether she might have a romantic partner in mind. And instead of teasing a potential love interest or suggesting there was more to explore, Oda simply stated that while Nami appreciates all of her crewmates and sees the good in each of them, there's absolutely no romance happening between her and anyone else on the crew, and that's final. He made sure to clarify once again that One Piece is not, has never been, and will never be a romance manga, and that the heart of the story has always been centered on wild adventures, intense battles, massive world building, powerful friendships, and chasing dreams, which is where his focus has always been and where he wants it to stay without being distracted by romantic subplots. In another interview, Oda went a step further and admitted that he really doesn't want to draw romantic elements at all in the first place, explaining that in his experience, introducing canon relationships usually ends up backfiring in some way since it can cause fans to lose interest in certain characters or get overly focused on shipping drama that pulls attention away from the main story. He said he prefers to leave things open-ended so fans can imagine what they want to imagine, whether that's shipping characters together or not, but he'll personally never confirm or label any Straw Hat relationships because from his perspective, doing that would compromise the story's core values and emotional focus. More recently, when the One Piece live-action series was in development, Oda gave the showrunner, Steve Maeda, one very specific and non-negotiable condition when it came to adapting the story for a new audience, and that was this. There must be no romantic relationships between any members of the Straw Hat crew, no hints, no teases, no subtext, just a faithful focus on the spirit of the original story. So, as much as fans might love to imagine Luffy ending up with someone like Nami, Robin, or even Boa Hancock, the truth is that Oda has made his stance crystal clear, and no matter how far the series goes, or how close the crew becomes, romance just isn't part of their journey because for Oda, the real love story in One Piece is the one between dreamers and their dreams. Even though Oda has already been extremely clear about the fact that he has no interest in writing romance between the members of the Straw Hat crew and has completely shut down the possibility of any pairings forming among them, he's also made it known that his stance goes even further, because it's not just internal crew relationships he avoids, it's romance in One Piece as a whole that he prefers to keep out of the spotlight. He's mentioned on several occasions that he regularly gets messages and requests, especially from female fans, who ask him to include more romantic elements in the plot or to explore relationships between characters. And while he absolutely appreciates the enthusiasm and love that fans have for the story, he's explained that it's just not something that fits into the vision he has for the world of One Piece. In Oda's mind, it's totally fine if female characters within the story admire Luffy, fall for him, or express romantic feelings toward him, and he doesn't mind portraying those moments lightly or with humor, especially when it fits the character dynamics. But he believes that if Luffy were to return those feelings or get involved in a relationship, It would create a shift in his character that would take away from the core essence of what One Piece is really about. And honestly, that philosophy lines up perfectly with the way Luffy has always been written. He's someone who is fully locked in on his dream, completely driven by adventure and freedom, and totally uninterested in anything that could slow him down or add unnecessary emotional weight to his journey. Which is why Oda has made it clear that while affection can exist around Luffy, it will never be something that steers the ship. Here's what Oda had to say about this. I don't draw romance because OP is a manga for boys. Female fans ask me to draw romance, but if they want to read it, they should read shoujo manga, and it's not my job. I don't care how many women love Luffy, but I don't think it's good if they love each other. Oda, 2009. Since the very beginning of One Piece, fans all over the world have constantly speculated about who Monkey D. Luffy might eventually end up with in a romantic sense. And it's no surprise that one of the most popular guesses has always been Nami, the series' main female protagonist, who has shared countless emotional and high-stakes moments with Luffy, forming a deep bond that's easy for viewers to read into as something more. However, despite how natural or appealing that pairing might seem to longtime fans, Oda has gone on record multiple times with a very firm stance. Romance between Straw Hat crewmates is off the table entirely, and no matter how close they are or how much chemistry some characters appear to have, he has absolutely no intention of turning any of those relationships into something romantic. This completely rules out the possibility of Luffy and Nami ending up together, not because their dynamic doesn't work, but simply because Oda's vision for One Piece has never included romantic entanglements among the core members of the crew. And he's repeatedly emphasized that One Piece is a story about dreams, freedom, and adventure, not love.